I'm here. Bet you's all wondering where I've been. Haven't made one of these videos in ages. I've been running around like a blue arse fly. I've been very, very busy. And things have been in the way. And also, I don't want to be making these videos constantly because, one, I'm not one of these people who's like has to feel compelled to do it all the time. And secondly, ultimately, as we dive into this wave function collapse, it's very important to not be concentrating on the news stories, no matter how bizarre and insane they are. And boy, are they bizarre and insane. Yeah, it's one thing to recognize them, to pay attention to them, and then forget about them. I still got people sending me links with like news stories about American politics and stuff. I don't give a fuck. I know, I don't mean, like, I know they mean well. They're sending me a story, but that's it. I look at it and it's gone. You cannot attach yourself to a dying paradigm. You go down with it. The Titanic is now sinking. The lifeboats are all gone. The rest of us we're not, the normies and the NPCs are standing in line and waiting for instructions before they're all drowned. And the rest of us, we're stringing together barrels and shipping pallets and even pianos to make rafts. That's us, the tribes. You cannot be concentrating on a political thing, anything like that, elections, all this stuff. That's all the dying world. You cannot, you cannot be emotionally involved with it. The evening news, all the stuff that's going on. You look at it, you take note of it, and then you move on because you do not want to go down with this thing. And boy, is it going down at the moment. Now, I was just thinking the other day, I made a video in November 2019, November 8th, on this channel, called "This is the most important video ever." And amazingly, the title of the video, I'd woken up with a hunch that morning that I should make this video. And the video was about a coronal mass injection of the sun that would shut the world down. Well, lo and behold, 2 months later, we got a corona without the L, and it shut the world down. So whatever, I was tapping into the zeitgeist, whatever, about that, around that time. I didn't quite get it right, but I got right enough, I think. And we may be heading for but be careful now. But the real thing, there's this I can never remember a time in my life when there was this amount of Northern Lights, aurora borealis activity. I can remember when I was growing up, being mad about astronomy as a kid. And the Northern Lights were unheard of in Ireland. It was a thing they had to go to the north of Norway, Scandinavia, to have any chance of seeing them. And the first time I saw the Northern Lights was about 1994. I was flying from New York to Dublin, or the other way, and I was at a window seat facing north, and the captain said, "Those of you who are on the whatever side of the aircraft it was, look out your window, and there's a spectacular display of the aurora borealis." Looked out, and there it was. That was the first time I saw it. But that was like, when planes are flying from New York to Ireland, they literally go to the North Pole because of the curvature of the Earth and flight paths. So that's why when you're flying, that you can see the icebergs and everything down the sea. When you start heading, it goes up to like Labrador and then crosses the southern tip of Greenland and then down to Ireland. And there was it. But now everyone's seeing them, even in not southern latitudes, but in latitudes way, way lower than these islands. People who wait all their lives to see them were planning one day to make a trip to Scandinavia or Alaska to see them, or living in places like France are seeing them. That's tremendous solar activity. And it could be cosmic as well. It could be, it's the corona, like the Ace of Swords card. The crown is around the northern hemisphere. It's the cold sword of the north. And it's the second year in a row we've had this. So, as above, so below. It's all interconnected. And we don't go down with the wave function. We observe, we marvel. But it's also that these northern lights are almost like to warn the transhumanists. Oh yeah, you want to put, those types of the Internet of Things, yeah, you can put a chip in everything. You can put up delicate uh, communication systems and electronic systems. But one coronal mass ejection from the sun and your transhumanist world is over. And that's what the Northern Lights are saying, really, to the transhumanists. Natural law will fry your ass one day, literally. Will fry your ass one day with a CME from the sun. And it may not even be one that has to be really dangerous, that could, say, destroy all electronics. It could just destroy the gentle electronics. And it would take years to get back. And so that's their transhumanist dream world gone. So, always remember that. That's what when you see those Northern Lights spectacular displays at the moment, that's the sun saying, message for you, bitch, to the transhumanists. That's what that is saying. And yeah, wow, there you go. It's fascinating stuff to watch. People are still dying in their millions, and they are their millions. I saw some video attacking me the other day somewhere on some of those, like it was on Rumble or somewhere, and the comments were like, he said loads of people would die after Christmas, and yeah, I don't know any. Well, just because your Aunt Mary didn't die from the transubstantiation doesn't mean no one died. I don't know anyone who died in World War II in my family or friendship, or that doesn't, or even in service in World War II. That doesn't mean World War II never happened. Get out of your Rain Man, mentality. And the government stats are off the scale. And maybe tens of millions have died from transubstantiation, and these fast-acting cancers are terrifying. I was reading about a 22-year-old cricketer who died the same week he was diagnosed with testicular cancer. That's just the same week. People go directly into stage 4. So don't give me this nonsense that didn't happen. It is happening, and it's not even slowing down. It never happened. It didn't happen. It didn't, because I don't see it happened. It happened. Deal with it. And I think a lot of them are the ones who say that are the ones who took it, out of cowardice. And they're trying to say, oh, I'm okay, I'm in the clear now. I hope you are in the clear. I really do. I hope everyone who took that thing is in the clear. But some apparently, unfortunately, they're not. They rolled the dice and crapped out. It's like it took the chance, and that was just like going to war. You either come back with a medal or a body bag, and I want everyone to come back with a medal. But there's still plenty that comes back in the body bags. But that's it. That's the wave function. That's part of the wave functioning collapse, as is all the other things with the strange gender thing. Have you noticed now that that's now switching around? The World Athletics Body has said that no, trannies can't take part in in women's sports. That's it. It's turning around now. See what we're happening is that's the old war coming back. You see, as this reality is collapsing, the old one is coming towards it, and eventually we'll be back to where we were before September 11, 2001, when the restoration of back to a happier, it won't be a bliss. It won't be utopia. It wasn't bliss and utopia. It's September 10, 2001, but my God, it was a hell of a lot better than what we have now. A hell of a lot better. And life had meaning and satisfaction, and there was a reason to there was much more a Dolce Vitae. There really was. There really, really was. And so, I really don't have a lot to talk about. I went to the Isle of Man with my friend Neil MacDonald. We had an amazing time. And the main reason I wanted to go there, he goes there all the time, but I wanted to see, you've read my book, The Druid Code. You've seen my film, Who Stole the Allfather. I'm still trying to figure out where this Jesus Christ image came from. Because I studied numerous Viking crosses and Celtic ones. Isle of Man is it's interesting. The northern half of the island is Viking. The southern half of the island is Celtic, Gaelic. And they literally do meet in the middle, and literally the archetypes meet in the middle. In the middle of the Isle of Man, it's literally one side of the field, it's leprechauns and the She, and the other side of the field, it's the elves and the goblins. I'm not joking you, that's literally what it's like. And it's a much bigger place than I thought it was, and it has real mountains and forests and, briars, and look, it's like Middle Earth, a lot of it. They could have filmed Lord of the Rings there if they wanted. But, so, everything is there except Jesus Christ. There's crosses, but as you know, that the crucifix symbol is much older than Christianity, and Christianity didn't use the crucifix in probably its first 1,000 years of its existence. So, I want to know. I want to know what's going on. And what I see is a much more fluid and complex and long story than what we were told in school. We got the Cliff Notes version of the rise of that stuff, and the takeover, the remove, the end of the pagan world. But it was much longer, especially in these northern areas, especially up here. It was different, and they had to co-opt the Odin archetype in order to, and stick him on a cruise, stick him on a cross instead of a tree, and that's how they did it. And another thing, I wrote an article, I'll post it down below in the comments, about the dourness. You see, this whole thing with Nordic paganism and the Nordic paganism revival of today, it's like a death metal scene, isn't it? It was epitomized by, what's her name, Björk in the Northman film as the shaman. But, where was the joy in these cultures? What we're seeing, what these, ironically, what these pagans, these Nordic pagans think is Nordic paganism, is really the Lutheran religion, the Lutheran Presbyterianism, the dourness of that and Calvinism brought to Germany and Scandinavia, and to a lesser degree Scotland with Calvinism. But that's what they're seeing. They're seeing societies that were not like that in the pagan days. You ever been inside a Lutheran church? It's dead, sterile, and cold. Well, that's reflected in that culture. That's reflected in that scene, in that, and that filtered out through Nordic and Germanic culture. Prior to that, we do have evidence until the Reformation that Swedish and Scandinavian society was much more jovial and relaxed, and closer to Celtic and that kind of, what they call Celtic, and this is proven too by the Brittonics, the situation in England. Although they're Germanic people in England, their version of paganism is more pastoral and soft around the edges, less harsh, and that comes directly from the surviving Brittonic Celtic, whatever Celtic is, and the Romano paganism that was in England in the back when in Britannica. This whole dark, dour thing of the Satyrs and the whole Nordic paganism thing. It's Lutheranism. Even if you look at like the pagan revival Nordic congregationalism, it looks like the Lutheran church. You see, they even have like the guys in the gowns, just like a Lutheran minister. So those of you who think like that, Nordic paganism is all this dark, intense, brutal, dour scene, are really emulating the Lutheran Church and the Lutheran Church's version of paganism, as selling it that way. For all we know, I wouldn't say, I'd say that paganism in Sweden and Denmark and Germany was much more jovial and happy, like it was in, probably closer to Hellenic paganism than what we see today. What you see today is the Weird Sisters from Macbeth. Shakespeare was commissioned by one of his, well, it wasn't commissioned directly, but one of his supporters was King James of Demonology, and he wrote the Weird Sisters in Macbeth. and to deliberately stereotype witches as negative, dark, and horrible. And that's what Björk played in that. Now, this is part of the wave function too, seeing things for what they really are, rather than what they've been imposed upon us. So those you Nordic pagans who think you should paint your face all black and do congregationalism and go hail inside churches, and that's what those. And that's another thing. It's very churchy. These the first Nordic pagan churches are being built, and well, their ancestors didn't go to churches. They had groves and temples. They didn't have churches with a guy who looks like he just left the Lutheran church. So that's that you guys have to really examine that. I mean, that's part of my heritage too as well. But I'm now starting to see that's all your vision, your death metal vision of Nordic paganism is not what Nordic paganism probably was. It was probably more close to, kids dancing around the maypole with flowers in their hair. That's probably what it was close to. So you need to start thinking about that one. I'll post the link below. Don't emulate the propaganda of your enemies who've done that to you. That's another part of the wave function collapse as well. The casting off of negative stereotypes that have been applied to all of us. This whole thing. You see, that's, this whole thing of like white privilege. And I mean, I had no white privilege growing up. I mean, I grew up in the Ballymount Flats. My father wasn't Minister for Justice and I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. That's extreme white. The ones who had extreme white privilege have decided that the rest of us are all the same. Or I didn't grow up in the Transvaal, in the colonies, in the empire. My father was my grandpapa Quentin was a diplomatic attaché for the Transvaal, and we had coolies on the veranda, and nowadays I got to fight this white nationalism, racism. We had coolies and cafes on the veranda, and that's what they're like. That's what they're like, and all that shit has to stop. And people need to be. You see, this is the biggest thing. The ones who claim to be individuals are the ones who judge everybody in groups. Everybody is an individual. Everybody is an individual. And the only thing that ever worries me is religion. I'm terrified of fucking Christianity and Islam. I am. I'm sorry, you Christians, but I am. I'm terrified of you. I know what you're capable of, and what we, and I know most of you are nice people, wouldn't harm anybody. But I know what I know about the Middle Ages. I know about the Cathars. I know about what you did, the Third Swedish Crusade, the Hutsis and the Tutus in Rwanda. I'm aware of you. Sorry, the Abrahamic thing. I'm gonna be careful there, and nothing personal. But I don't care about anything else. But I do worry. Religion does worry me, and when we saw that during the lockdowns and all that stuff. That kind of witch hunting mentality wouldn't have been that was the Abrahamic mind virus converted into stay home, save lives. So we have to be very careful with this stuff. Again, if you're a Christian, that's your own business. Good luck to you. I'm delighted you find comfort and a better quality of life in your faith. I'm completely down with that. But I do worry about jihad and crusade. I do worry about them. Not worry about them, but they're always in the back of my mind. Because when you step away from those things, you see them for what they are, and But anyway, we're friends, and that doesn't mean I judge every single Christian or Muslim according to jihad or crusade. Of course not. That's the only politics can be destroyed, but religion is a different thing altogether. Organized religion doesn't make me comfortable. And that's where I see in that Nordic paganism, a desire to organize paganism into congregationalism and all churchiness, We're not people of the books. Anyway, look after yourselves. Don't forget the Hocus Focus on Sunday night. We've got a good one coming up this week. And also, we're telling you now the films in advance so you can spend the week watching them. So, enjoy yourself and have a lovely weekend. The sun is shining here, though it's windy. And sanguine gnosis, what we had, we held. And you're fucking beautiful. You're fucking wonderful. And don't ever let anyone take that away from you. With any, you just be your beautiful selves. Take care.